first question I ask everybody is, when did you know music was going to be a part of your life?
I would say very young. Both of my parents are musicians. My mom is a singer. My dad is a bassist, and they had been in bands all throughout like the 80s and 90s and stuff like that. And so, just kind of growing up, it was like all around me. And then about 9 is when I started to actually like learn how to play instruments and stuff like that.
Dang, that's cool. What kind of music did they play?
My dad was very much into like ska and emo bands, and my mom, she was in a lot of cover bands. She was in like B-52's cover band and a couple of other fun things. But they were both also in the punk scene when that was all happening. So it was just kind of just worked out that I was gonna end up this way.
That's awesome. When you were growing up, was it kind of just like did they give you an instrument, or did you still kind of like learn to love music yourself?
I definitely learned to love music myself. I would kind of listen to whatever they were listening to up until like around, I would say like 2008. 2009, I kind of mark as like when I got into music. I was 9 years old. I went to go see Coraline in theaters, and the trailer song at the time was Welcome Home from Coheed and Cambria, which I still love that band to this day. But that song I thought was so cool, and I needed to learn it. And I remember I was playing Rock Band, and the song is like the like secret song that you can get like by doing cheat codes or whatever, or you could beat the game. I did the cheat codes. So I was playing that a lot on Rock Band, and I was like super proud that I was able to play it on expert. And my parents were like, "That's not as cool as actually doing it on a real guitar." So they bought me a used Gibson Melody Maker, and started taking guitar lessons when I was just shortly after that at Best Buy of all places, when Best Buy had a guitar shop in the back. And so like from there is when I would really say like my love for music was like solid.
That that's super badass. I freak out because I was looking at like how old you were, and I like graduated high school in 2006.
Oh really?
Yeah, so I'm just like, man, I'm just so old.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's not
but
old, man.
yeah, no, I'm happy where I'm at. But
It's good.
it's really cool hearing that. I mean, Coraline's a cool movie, but Kohi just inspiring you to play guitar is real cool. So once you started like practicing guitar, did you just when did you start getting involved in bands or like looking into bands?
I had always wanted to been. I always would have loved to have been in a band when I was growing up, and started many that just didn't really even meet up. Like because when you're young like that, nobody's really that interested, and I always found myself being the most interested in it. So I didn't get into bands actually until around 2018 or 19. I actually started as a vocalist because I sing a little bit as well. And so I don't know, I joined as a vocalist in some guy's really awful band in his basement as a singer. And at that time, I had just graduated high school, and I was at City College. Um, and a friend of mine who is in the music department that I met through like a jazz appreciation course um, found out that I could sing and asked me to join his progressive metal band as a vocalist. And so that right there is kind of where everything started, I would say, even for bass playing, because I didn't buy my first bass until August 2019.
Dang, and that's when you started like learning bass?
Yeah, that's when I started learning bass.
Dude, that's so wild. Like you're you're so good.
Thank you.
What like okay, so if you just started in 2019, like what kind of bands influenced you to like I guess hone your style?
Oh, I really, I would kind of say that my style is most similar to Clay Gober from Polyphia.
Yeah.
Um, but I mean, when I like think of artists that I want to like be like, it's typically more on the like intervals, Jacob Umansky, like all of those Dingwall artists, kind of. I mean, like Nolly Get Good and um, whoever else that they have for a while, David John Levy, also very similar style. But I would say that I sound most similarly to Clay Gober because of the hybrid picking techniques that I like to implement in a lot of my stuff. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I didn't really start learning until August. I just kind of transferred whatever I had learned from guitar. And even then, it wasn't like I wasn't a good guitar player. I was okay. I would say I was like the most mediocre guitar player, you know, because it was like through my teens, I would just kind of on and off, just pick it up whenever. But like I found periphery, um, and that kind of just was like that's how I got back into music. And
Yeah, for sure. So when you were learning bass, like what did you take from guitar that like kind of helped you just I guess excel just quickly with bass?
um, just fretting. My fretting hand was I have very large fingers, so like in my fretting hand, I kind of was able to just take everything that I was already doing on guitar and transfer it over to the longer scale. Um, Everything else though, I kind of had to like reverse engineer from watching people play because I haven't formally taken any bass lessons, which I definitely should at some point, just to really tighten everything up. But I would say that like a lot of it was just kind of the rudiments of playing guitar that I would transfer over, and then everything else I learned from watching others and like doing extensive research and watching like Scott's bass lessons and whatever whatever else you watch.
Yeah, sometimes you just get stuck in that Scott Space Lessons YouTube
Yeah,
hole and you're just
yeah,
learning all this wild stuff.
totally.
Um, so how did or yeah, how do you practice or what's your kind of like mindset when it comes to practice?
Um, well, recently it's mostly just been practicing my newest projects songs, but when it comes to like wanting to learn something, I'll typically find a song that has a technique in it that I don't know or is really interesting, and I'll either sit there or I'll find tabs or kind of you know find a way to really figure it out how they're doing it. I'll watch tons of videos of them playing it live and just try to really kind of understand the core concept of what they're doing. And then I'll just sit there for maybe about 2 to 3 hours sometimes a day. And I'll just practice that technique and that part of the song until I can apply that technique in other ways and other songs, especially in my stuff that I write with my band. I think that's kind of how I look at it.
Yeah. Do you practice every day?
I try to. Um, haven't been super good with it lately, but I mean, I would say that I practice, for at least 2 hours every single time that I sit down, which is at least 3 4 times a week, which is decent.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, like that's the most important thing. That's how you get good, you know.
Totally.
Um, so how'd you get? I know you practice, but like how was adapting to the hybrid picking like for bass?
Ooh. Well, I didn't start off with hybrid picking. I started off learning how to play with my fingers because when you first kind of leap into bass, there's that like
Don't play with
super.
the pick. Yeah.
Yeah, that really, I hate that mantra, the whole gatekeeping of what constitutes as real bass playing. Because I mean,
Absolutely.
because you see like lots of people who will do that, but then they'll like praise Carol Kay and Carol Kay used to pick. It makes no difference. I think the whole idea of like keeping people from feeling like they're doing the right thing by playing however they want to play is dumb. But I believed that initially because I was like, oh, I want to seem like I know what I'm doing, and so I spent a lot of time working on my fingerstyle technique. Um, And then from there, it was as simple as just including a pick with it.
Yeah.
I think of my pick mostly as my index finger now. So whatever my index finger would be doing, kind of is what it the pick is doing for me. Um, in terms of the hybrid picking, if
Mhm.
I'm just picking, it's
Yeah. Have you tried to mess around with like double thumb?
a little bit. It's a very similar technique. I'm able to do it on guitar, like on my friend's 8 strings and stuff. I can play that style, but I don't know why, but I have the hardest time like shifting that over onto the thicker strings. I probably I've heard a lot of it sometimes will have to do with like tension. I'm probably not running the right string gauges for the tunings that I play in, but I'll figure it out eventually.
Yeah, for sure. What was your first bass that you got?
The first bass I ever bought, well, okay, so I got a bass for Christmas at like maybe 14. It was an Ibanez Geo, but I didn't really touch it. I kind of played around with it a little bit, but I think I sold it for something stupid, and I can't remember what I sold it for. But at that time, I wasn't really focused on music. I think I had really like enveloped myself in computer gaming because I was like really hardcore into Counter Strike. So I'm not going to count that. I'll say that the first bass I bought with my own money was a Schecter Stiletto Stealth, and I bought it used for about $300, and that was a great bass. That thing was killer.
Yeah, that does definitely sound great. When did you get your Dingwall?
I bought that I think in May of 2020. So May of 2020 is when I bought that. I bought it used. It was the blue one that I play. I bought it for about. I had saved up a ton of money because
Hmm.
I was looking at a bunch of different bases. I was really interested in those Ibanez headless bases, the EHBs. I was really interested in the like SR series, and just kind of looking around. Thought about Kiesel for a minute too, but ultimately I just decided like, hey, all of my favorite bass players are doing it. I might as well. So I picked one up for relatively decent price. I think I bought it for $2,050, and I drove to San Francisco to go pick it up. So that was actually kind of a fun experience.
It sounds badass, and just like you mentioned, like the Dingwall players, like well, just those basses have like their own distinct sound. Like,
They're very, very unique sounding. I always kind of joke that I spent all of that money to sound like a MIDI bass. Uh,
right?
because they do, they genuinely have that really super sterile modern growl to them, and it's wonderful. I've definitely like seen a couple of like more traditional sounding basses come out, like the Payson supercharger bass, same scale length, same everything, but it's got a more like rounder like traditional bass sound, and those
Hmm.
are awesome. But I don't know, I just there's something about that really sterile sound that I love.
Yeah, I think it really cuts through just like any mix. I was listening to, well, I was watching your playthrough, but also listening to the Notes of Terra song Chimera. Is that what it's
Mm-hmm.
called? Yeah.
Kimara, yeah.
uh, and like you can just hear your bass. It sounds great, and yeah, I mean just those basses in general just are badass instruments. What kind of gear do you have now?
Um, so at the moment, I don't really have any live gear. Well, actually, I have an Atom pedal coming in that today. Actually, hopefully, I've been waiting forever. So hopefully, within the next couple hours or so. Um, I had a really. I'm all about like minimalism because I end up moving a lot. Like I've moved 3 times within like the last year or so. Just within my city, but it still would suck to carry all of that gear around. So at this point, I'm doing everything mostly digitally. I had a pedal board that I had built, which all kind of went by the wayside to pay for the Atom pedal, because that's kind of like one of those all-in-one systems, and I'm all about that. I really love like that no stage sound, sort of like DI straight in the house, because then you can kind of ensure the tone is what you're thinking the tone is.
Yeah.
And plus, I don't know, just something is very like I don't know. I just don't really like the concept of having to carry heavy stuff around. I would love to own an amp and cabinet, but it wouldn't really get much use. I'm just not really that into it. So for now, it's the two basses and then whatever I put on my pedal board now that I have the Atom pedal.
Yeah, that's great. Like, I mean, because I had like an 8x10 amp and it was terrible. I
Yeah,
was like in the cover band and I played multiple times a week and it was horrible, like taking that thing everywhere. So I have a little Fender Rumble, like a 500 watt, but
those are
that
great.
thing, yeah, it sounds amazing and it's only like 35 pounds.
Yeah.
Um,
My
but
dad, oh, sorry to cut you off. My
uh,
dad has like an 800-watt one, the like huge, huge one. That one's not even that heavy either. And that one sounds killer. So yeah, I totally know what you're talking about. It's not a very heavy amp to carry around.
yeah, I think that model has like Bluetooth and like you can
Yeah.
get the Fender app and get
Yeah.
different sounds on the app.
I think the 500 watts, some of the newer models have that too. I know even like down to like the 20-watt ones, like you can just, yeah, there's some of them that are crazy, but yeah, that's a great series of amps. If I wanted a combo amp, I'd probably get one of those or, you know.
Yeah, for sure. When you're recording your covers are so you're going straight into like a DAW, like
Mhm.
do you use any VSTs?
Typically parallax. Yeah. I
Okay.
didn't used to use parallax. I had like the trial of it a long time ago. I made a couple of YouTube videos, like two to be exact, so literally a couple with it. And it was great. And then I completely forgot about it. And ended up like using my alpha omega pedal a little bit. Um, and then kind of once I started getting more into like the VST side of things, there like I didn't have any money. So I was using this free plugin called like the TSE bod.
Mm,
It's like a Sans amp. Um, DI box sort of deal, like
mhm.
simulated, and it was great for being a free plugin because the way I would use it was parallax. I would try to like figure out how to actually do parallel processing with it for myself. But my buddy that's in my band has quite a few of the neural DSP plugins and was really gracious enough to like let me borrow his license for it since he doesn't play bass. So he just was like, "Here you go." So I'm kind of chilling on that until I decide to buy it for myself, or if I really love the way the Atom pedal is, I'll probably start using that for videos.
Nice.
Yeah.
So we kind of talked about like not really bringing amps on stage and using it in like this new kind of basses and hybrid picking. Like, what do you think is the future of bass playing?
I would say I would say just like bass players I kind of see are on the more forefront of like pushing the instrument in really new and innovative ways. I'm really hoping to see some cool like headless 37-inch scale models and having 37-inch be the standard for five strings because of how clear that low B is. Um, just because I don't know, like I've seen tons more companies kind of catching on and realizing that that's kind of the way to go with those. So like you got like Spectre and Legator and Ormsby and all of those brands kind of catching on and doing the 37-inch fives, 37-inch scale five strings. So I'm kind of hoping that that's the future of at least extended range basses. I'm just kind of also hoping that people kind of I've been seeing tons of like Nordstrand and like really high end pickup becoming like really commonplace on some of these more affordable guitars. So I'm hoping that that kind of also comes in with it. And then, I mean, there's the obvious like amp modeling. I think those quad cortexes can be really cool for people, especially the bass tones that they're able to replicate. I think those are really sick. But I don't know. I've like just kind of being in both the guitar and bass community. I feel like the bass community is always trying to like push stuff forward. I mean, if I remember correctly, I think the FanFret, the Novak FanFret system on the Dingwalls was like the first time a multi-scale had been put on in like a guitar instrument. So I could be wrong about that. I don't know, but it just seems at least surface level that like bassists are always trying to push the instrument forward, which is super awesome. I actually can't wait to see what it's like in maybe 3 or 4 years down the line.
Yeah, I'm stoked too. You mentioned fan frets. Like, was it like weird to play with the bass with fan fretting?
Um, the first couple times I picked one up, I wasn't really sure how I felt about it. But that's because I was starting to realize that my hand was fighting um, the actual positioning that it should have been in because my technique wasn't really there. So I noticed that like over time, the fan fret design actually follows the way that your wrist should be placed, sort of it loosely. So like just kind of remembering that and getting used to it over time, it's become super comfortable, and I can't really see myself going back to playing non-multi-scale basses, just because it's what's comfortable to me.
Yeah, for sure. What is some advice that you might have for a bass player playing like in lower tunings, like to get clear, like a clear sound?
Ooh, really focus on mids. I see a lot of people trying to get that modern sound by scooping out the mids entirely. You don't want to like mix your bass like a guitar because I know people are like scoop the mids always, and that's what kills good bass and mixes is scooping out those mids. You really want to like that's where a lot of that stringy noise, that's where all that like Dingwall growl comes from. So you like if you really want to cut through a mix, that's kind of like the way to do it. I don't know. I would say like, you know, obviously choosing a bass that you feel comfortable with too helps. Your playing is really important in terms of getting really clear, like defined notes within the track that you're tracking. And like, I don't know, I'm just because I play them, I'm gonna plug Dingwall again for the millionth time. Like that scale length is just perfect for standard tuning, for any sort of drop tuning. So if there's like metal bassists that want to play in drop E, for instance, because I'm setting up the blue one to do that, that's like the perfect scale length. I mean, you could go a step further and buy a Quake Callium bass, but I don't know if they're really selling those right now. Those are crazy, 40 inches. Can you imagine?
That's wild.
Yeah, bro. A 40-inch scale bass. I can't even imagine what that would feel like to hold. But I've seen dudes tune to like C sharp zero on those. Yeah, just nuts.
Uh, yeah, I don't think so.
Yeah, no, I probably would never go that low.
How do you feel about people who like tune digitally, like just drop their?
I used to do that. I think it's a good option. It depends really on what you're willing to do on stage and in your recordings. I've noticed in my own personal use is I had a pitchfork, the um, Electroharmonics pitchfork. I think that's the brand. And I was playing in a deathcore band, and I would use it to drop to E0 on its own merit. And I noticed that when I would do that, it would sound horrible. And it was because all of the overtones that you're getting from the strings naturally are completely sucked out through that digital process. And so it's a really it gets the same point across, and it can be really good. And I've done that to like demo songs, but I personally feel like if you really want the best possible tone for like digital dropping, you just kind of want to do it analog. That's like the only time I'll ever really say like analog is the way to go is tuning. But I can see some applications like, if you're playing in like 6 different tunings in a set, you don't want to carry around 6 different basses to play all these different tunings. So like just kind of fiddling around with your whammy pedal is probably perfect for that. And nobody's going to hear you live anyways because people suck at doing bass sound live, so it won't really matter too much. But I don't know, I kind of like the idea of getting all of those extra upper harmonic register from the actual string itself rather than tuning it down digitally.
For sure. So what have you been doing like musically, I guess, with Notes of Terra or just yourself like during this pandemic?
um I've definitely been focusing a lot on um, trying to find a niche for myself. I think definitely having Note of Terra as a project with my friends is has been like the greatest thing for me in terms of like getting to explore all of the techniques and stuff that I had been learning. Because I actually met the drummer for the band in that previous deathcore project, and when I was playing, it was fun and I really liked it, but it just didn't really give me the kind of room to explore the instrument like I had wanted to. I like the fast riffs and stuff like that, but I really just wanted to play some intricate like groove lines because I love rhythm and like funky rhythms. And even though this band plays in primarily four, um, they leave a lot of space for me to play around with and like kind of move around the guitars. And it's not so apparent in the newest or the most recent track we released, but there's some later tracks where it can get really fun. And I think that that's kind of opened up a really big space for me to play around in. Um, just like having those guys, and them coming up with basically a jungle for me to play in with the bass is just super fun. I'm not super good at writing my own stuff. I have done it before, but it's just I don't know. I prefer having people have something set up for me so that I can put my mark in and then have it be like that.
Yeah, which is something I was gonna ask you, just like on how you came up with bass lines or the writing process.
Hmm.
I'm pretty much the same way. Like a majority of the time, my guitar player, singer will have like kind of the structure, and then I just come in and figure out what I could do too. Which like, I mean, again, just like the picking and
Hmm.
effects. Like, there's no wrong way to write music. We're all contributing our own stuff. Which is awesome. What are you planning for 2021?
Hopefully, a full EP with Note of Terra. We have everything written. We didn't have a vocalist at the time that we released the single, but now we do. And so we're looking forward to putting some vocals on everything and getting everything pushed out into a full EP release. So that should be really fun. Um, I don't know, just kind of spending the rest of the year writing and having fun with bass. You know, hopefully tours and shows open up towards the end of the year because I've been really itching to do that. That's kind of one of my biggest goals as a musician is to like play shows and just kind of have fun with it because I haven't actually gotten a chance to do that. Because right as soon as I got into bands that were actually doing something, it was already mid pandemic. So I would love to like actually get out there and start playing some shows. So hopefully by whether or not they project it like spring, summer, sometime.
Yeah.
Love to try it out.
Yeah, it's definitely fun. I'm excited for you to play a show. That's going to be a super fun experience.
Absolutely.
What's like the I guess how's the music scene right now during the pandemic? Like, do you have venues that are open? Like, are people trying to play with having some
Uh,
bands play here and there?
not not that I really hear of. I remember like there was one underground show that happened maybe like half a year ago, but like really everybody here, at least locally, in the scene for my band, like the whole metalcore and deathcore scene, they're all really respectful of COVID for the most part, and they kind of understand the implications of holding the underground shows and stuff like that. So there's no real underground shows happening, and of course, because California, there's no venues open either, which is probably for the best. So we're all kind of just playing the waiting game and just hanging out. But I got some fun stuff possibly lined up for when shows start happening again. You may have heard of them. Artificial Language. Does that sound familiar?
That name sounds familiar.
Yeah. We share our practice space with that band. So hopefully getting together with them and doing a show would be possible. They're like probably the biggest thing here locally in terms of metal music because of Charlie Robbins. So those dudes are awesome. They're super sick. So I'd love to like play a show with them or maybe get something going, you know. But when it comes time.
Yeah, for sure. Whenever y'all decide to tour and want to come to Texas, like, let me know. When it,
Absolutely.
but
Dude, I would love to play a show. That'd be so sick.
yeah, I mean, I play ska, but we can do like ska
Dude,
and
ska is
deathcore.
so
No,
sick. Are you kidding? I'd love to like open up for a ska band or have ska band open up for me. Who cares?
yeah,
Ska is a sick genre. I love that genre.
it's pretty fun. It's real fun. Like it's so different now. Like it's not just like upstrokes all day, but
No, yeah.
but yeah, man. So how can people listen to you or find you online?
So I primarily post on Instagram. My handle is Finch underscore Martin underscore. That's kind of where I do the majority of my posting.
Mm.
Facebook is kind of like an afterthought. So typically, whatever I upload to Instagram then goes on to Facebook. And then in terms of music, we're on just about every streaming platform with Note of Terra. If they want to listen to my previous work, Reaping the Shallows, we have an EP out, but I think that band's kind of defunct at the moment. So primarily Note of Terra is the like main way to go. We have one single out, Kimara, and we plan on having an EP out shortly. We have actually a single that is in the works that we can probably put out relatively soon. So definitely be on the lookout for that. Um, yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah. That other EP where you playing guitar on it, or you're playing bass on that too?
I was playing bass on that one too.
Can we hear you sing anywhere?
On my Instagram.
Okay.
Yeah, on my Instagram, I have just a couple of clips of me singing. I kind of like used to do a bunch of vocal covers of me singing and just, mm,
Mhm.
eh, it was okay. So I took some of them down, but I mean, you know, bass is definitely my thing. So like if I all of the music I've released has just been me on bass, which kind of haunts me. I will admit, the last track on the Reaping the Shallows EP, I was playing a half step out of tune because there were no tabs or anything for me to look at, and we were all doing it remotely from our houses. So I just tried to learn it by ear, but because it's already so low, those minor seconds are super difficult to tell apart. It ends up sounding really cool just because there's some cool clashing dissonance, and metal is already that anyways. But you know, we all make mistakes. So
Yeah.
I will say that Note of Terra is definitely my most proud work. So like, if you guys are gonna listen to anything, go listen to that.
Hell yeah, definitely. Well, dude, thanks for talking to me.
Absolutely,
I'm really stoked to just even see where you're gonna be like in a year or two if you're where you're at now. But yeah, man, maybe we can catch up. And again, like if you go on tour, definitely come through Texas. We'll get some people for you.
absolutely.
But yeah, thanks, and you have a good night, man.
You too. Thanks, buddy. Appreciate
Thanks.
it.
Later.